Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream in which I am struggling to breathe and speak at the moment because my insides hurt quite a lot. I started streaming a moment or so later than I expected because I was eating some Mentos. They went down the wrong hole, and now, whenever I breathe, all I can feel is cold. So that's always a very fun place to be. Wrong hole. I'm not telling you which one, but you can use your imagination on that one. Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to the stream in which we will be discussing something a little bit annoying. So everyone was sort of anticipating that Leeds United would have a nice chill couple of days after the Pie Show stuff. The Pie Show stuff came to an end. It turned out that Igor Pie Show didn't come to Leeds United. He went to Marseille instead. But we're thinking, okay, we'll just quietly get on with things in the background and we'll keep on making moves and we'll keep on going in the right kind of direction and eventually we'll make some deals. Yeah, that kind of thing ain't worked out in the long run, has it? That kind of thing has instead led us in the direction of Leeds United potentially being in yet another bidding war. Now, we all love a good bidding war. Bidding wars can be great fun, absolute shenanigans, great banter. However, you don't really want to be in one with a Saudi state-owned club because they tend to just beat you. And that seems to be the news that has happened so specific. You know how sometimes you're like not necessarily like 100% ready to stream and everything falls apart? This is where we're at right now. But Leeds United clearly have an interest in Rodrigo Muniz. We had a bid denied a little bit earlier in the season, and we are now in a position of Newcastle having an interest in signing him. This is because they are potentially losing Alexander Isak to... where was that to? Liverpool, whilst simultaneously having an interest in Benjamin Šeško, who is currently a player at RB Salzburg, I want to say, which is going to be... I think I've picked the right one there, but that was a complete stab in the dark. But they're trying to cover for the gap that is going to be left by Isak, basically. And if they can't get Šeško in, they're going to potentially be looking at Rodrigo Muniz, because they also didn't get Ekitike done, which puts them in a little bit of a bad situation. So that means that Newcastle are now sort of in a bidding war with us, but I will be completely honest with you, I think we're a little bit cleverer than that. I think if there is a chance that Newcastle want to say, let's do a bidding war, we just say, yeah, let's not. This is absolutely not worth its time for us, because that would be absolutely petrifying. Us getting involved in a bidding war with one of the richest clubs on the planet would kill us, because you would end up spending 5 to 10 to 15 million pounds more than you're supposed to on a player, which sounds like madness to me. But anyway, that's the vague bit of story that we're going to be sort of discussing on today's stream. We'll also be discussing this one, for example, which was mentioned by, I'm assuming, Darren of Only Leeds Bros, around the fullback cover, which admittedly is not fantastic at the moment. Our cover at fullback is a little bit wobbly, but I feel like that'll be something that we work on as we go forwards. And then beyond that, we've also got the conversation surrounding all this time pissing around, which feels like an incredibly harsh read of the situation, but it's a read that more and more fans seem to be having around everything, so it's probably worth a little bit of discussion as well. Who are we talking about? We are talking about Rodrigo Muniz, because earlier today we found out that Newcastle are also interested in signing him and looking at spending something like 40 million quid. To cover what Sophie Plays says, saying, why get in a bidding war? He doesn't want us, we need to move on as soon as possible. That's not necessarily the case. We don't know what Rodrigo Muniz's take is on it yet. It's a fairly new emerging story where we don't actually know everything that is going on around Rodrigo Muniz. He might not even move because it's sort of waiting on Fulham to sign someone else before they were to release him. In the same way that on the Isaac Schmidt thing, Isaac Schmidt is only going to leave Leeds United once we have fullback cover in. So I think we'll end up with decent enough cover at fullback. We'll end up with a reasonable number 9 that isn't Josh Sargent, because the only links I've seen between us and Sargent have been the sort of lazy ones. Have been, Oh, well, you used to play under Daniel Farke, and everyone's saying that it's probably time for you to leave Norwich. I think if you were to maybe find a move anywhere, it would be to the Daniel Farke team that isn't Norwich. It's, yeah, it's your standard sort of, it's either agent talk bollocks, or it's a case of lazy journalist looks to make up a link, goes, ooh, shiny high-end championship player, ooh, promoted club, let's squish them together because the player and the manager have worked together in the past. It's one of those that has always felt a bit of a stretch, Sargent, and I really don't see that move happening in the slightest. Especially since, was it Werder Bremen that were on the brink of having signed Josh Sargent? If we were to have an interest in him, and we wanted to make that move happen, then why on earth wouldn't we have stepped in that situation? Why, when there was a potential move for him on the table to Germany, would we have just sat back and gone, no, this is fine, actually. I don't mind this. You can just have him. No, we would have swung in, would have gotten involved. Wolfsburg, there we go. I knew it was a W, I knew it was a German side. Plus, Wolfsburg, if you split that into two words, that's also WB, like Werder Bremen. So it gets a little bit complicated in that sense. Plus comes to Leeds for 75k a week, or Newcastle for 120k a week. That's also true. There is the wage aspect, but it's worth discussing. We'll find out. The truth is, if you have a choice of playing in Europe or not, it's not hard. Yeah, but there's also the question of, like, game time. But then again, if it's Isaac that's leaving... Isaac or Isaac? Isaac, I think. And you're going in as the replacement, odds are you're going to get the minutes. Which makes the entire situation a little bit difficult for us, I think. 4 candles. Right, I know that you've got this weird little kink for critiquing the club and specific memberships of club leadership. But to say Underwood fails again when we've got 7 pretty damn good signings in through the door is hilarious, to be honest with you. That reeks of you came into the transfer window knowing what you thought would happen, and anything that lines up with your preconceived conclusion, you're going, fucking Underwood. But then everything else that goes the other direction, you're sort of ignoring and forgetting. Like, you conveniently disappear. For example, when we sign Stack and Longstaff and Lucas Perry, who I was contacted by one of DAZN's French football experts the other day, because we're like ramping up for the coming season and we're doing a bunch of planning stuff. And he specifically pinged me a message like, how did you sign Lucas Perry? Because he's a ridiculously good footballer, and a hell of a lot of people think that he's probably a little bit above us. But that's fine, because you hadn't heard of him, therefore Underwood's a failure. Come on. Just the fact that some of these conversations get public doesn't mean that we're failing more often, it just means that failures are louder. Again, we can't say that the 40... Nothing has gone wrong! Fuck me. Ah. Right. Okay. Right, I'm going to do a poll. How would... we're going full customer service on this one. How would you rate this window so far? Would you be very satisfied? Would you be barely satisfied? Would you be barely unsatisfied? Oh, thank you for... Quiet. I like it when it's quiet. It's good. But thank you for being a member, Andrew. I appreciate that. Or would you be very unsatisfied? Let's see what people think, and if it's just people screaming into a void to try and be heard about things. Because things aren't failing. Things aren't going wrong. Like Arthur has said up there. Where's it gone? I can't find it. Somewhere. But Arthur's saying David Moyes says he needs 6 players in. Currently in our squad, we've got 5 or 6 more players than Everton do. And yeah, they've had time to build up a higher standard of squad, because that's normal, because they've had forever in the Premier League. But it's a hilariously thin side. It's not good enough. You have a look at, like, compare us to the other sides that came up, right? And a lot of people will look at Sunderland and look at the fact that Sunderland have signed a few good players, right? A, they signed a Bundesliga defensive midfielder for £17 million. We signed a Bundesliga defensive midfielder for £17 million. Ours was statistically better last season. On all defensive metrics. But people will look at Granit Xhaka and go, I know that name, that's a nice name. And we'll say that we failed. Which is a bit weird. Like, let's look inwards just a little bit. Like, look at Burnley as another example. Burnley have just lost James Trafford, right? Who, looking at all of the data from last season, the only reason that Burnley conceded fewer goals than we did last season was the difference in goalkeepers. Because on expected goals against, we were better than them. They've also lost Egan Riley. And their signings have included primarily players that they have to sign because of clauses and stuff like that. They've lost Brownhill. They've lost their goalkeeper, who was probably the best player in the league all season, and they've lost their top goal scorer. And yet people are looking at us because we haven't signed Igor Paixão because he wanted to play in the Champions League. Burnley are irrelevant, to be honest. It's a fair point of comparison, because you can't just look at us and go, yeah, we missed out on this player, therefore it's a failure. Which a lot of people seem like they're trying to do. Whereas in reality, you look at what other clubs around you are doing, and Everton have done so little in terms of signing players. Burnley are just slowly setting themselves on fire. Sunderland are doing alright, fair enough to them. But let's replace them for Brentford, another red and white stripy kit, who have signed Keith Andrews as their new manager and are slowly bleeding decent footballers. We're fine. We're all good. And if anyone is currently looking at Leeds United's situation and going, this is a failure on the part of Underwood, 49ers, anyone, we maybe need to recalibrate a bit. We maybe need to adjust the expectation. Because in terms of signing a player, you don't just walk in a room, thwap out your massive schlong made of £30 million and you say, you're coming to Leeds. It doesn't work like that. Because other clubs are also in the conversation, and people don't necessarily want to sell their players, and that player doesn't necessarily want to go to you. And you can say, but we might get relegated. You know what? All the other clubs might as well, and they're having worse windows than us. The difference between us staying up and us not staying up isn't defined by whether or not we sign Igor Paixão with more than a month left of the window. Yeah, we could do with a quality 9. No doubt. Yeah, we could do with a left winger. Because I'd quite like one of those. I'd like us to not be reliant on Jack Harrison at all next season. Don't like the guy particularly. But to say that Paixão choosing Marseille is the reason that we'll get relegated is bold. We do need a new striker and a winger. I agree with you on that one. But, yeah. Why are we not looking at South American markets? Do we know they play football like that? We do. I mean, we looked at signing Igor Paixão. The main difference is, and this is a weird one. So, when it comes to scouting in a lot of regions, it isn't a case of you will have a scout that is dedicated to a place. Because a lot of the time, getting a decent quality scout that has high level knowledge of an area is stupid expensive. A lot of the time, you will instead contract people who are already there to do scouting on your behalf. The issue is, they're not necessarily going to scout for multiple different clubs. And if you have a look at what's been happening throughout the rest of the Premier League and Europe recently, stop moving, there we go. Specifically looking at Esteval going to Chelsea, Endrick going to Real Madrid, all of the Real Madrid and Chelsea youth signings, effectively, that are children, but it looks like they're going through various schools in the favelas and picking out the people that are good at football. It means that the idea of like a scout's exclusivity kinda limits you. Like, you can't set up an entire scouting network in South America at the moment because it's just very, very, very costly. Connor of One Leeds said Paisha would have been the player that would have helped Leeds stay up. But that's the thing, though. He's not the only player that can do that. And again, people will make the Rafinha comparisons. I'll be honest, I was making the Rafinha comparisons because it seemed such a good, like, narrative link. Because the storyteller in me was trying to push the idea of that narrative link of the Rafinha signed after we got promoted, Brazilian player, signed him from the continent, from a club that was playing in Europe, comes to Leeds United, helps us to stay up and push to a decent level of quality. The narrative there is beautiful. However, whilst people will panic and say that, well, we've not got our Rafinha in and all that kind of stuff, we got Rafinha on the final day of the transfer window. He was a deadline day signing. We're fine. We're good. Doesn't matter. Pierre is of the opinion that the team now will keep us in the Premier League, which is fair enough. The poll, by the way, currently has 89% of respondents being somewhat satisfied. I'm kind of curious who the people who are down as unsatisfied are and why they're feeling that way. If we can keep Byram and Solomon fit, why can't we keep Nmecha fit too? He could surprise everyone. I think Nmecha will be one of the underrated signings of the season. I think Nmecha has a lot of quality to him. His issue is persistent injury troubles. I'm going to have a look at the nature of said troubles at the moment. Hang on. Transfer marked. It's Lucas we got, right? I know there's two of them. That's the only thing. So I get a bit confused. Stats, injury history, there we go. Right, so he had a long hamstring injury throughout 2024. And then following that, he had a little bit of, well, it says it's a separate injury, but it's effectively not. It's just he was coming back to full fitness. And then he missed a few games with adductor pain, which ain't great, but it's not the biggest of problems. Is the other Nmecha related to us? I think they're brothers, if I remember right. I'm not sure. Would you take Mikotadze? I probably would. It just feels like he would be a very, very difficult signing to do. Is he... I'm not going to try and remember I knew it was Georges Mikotadze, who was born in France, thus Georges, but plays for the Georgian national team, thus Mikotadze. It's weird how in one like name you've got to go from like Western European soft like consonants like Georges to Mikotadze. It's absolute whiplash. Oh my god, his number is 69. Yes, I would take Mikotadze. No doubt. I am no longer questioning it. I would every day of the week. Without question. Has he always been the number 69? And I know that's a childish thing to ask, but you need to ask it. Because if not, it's just disappointing. Right, history, squad numbers. Let's have a look. Okay, right, so... No, he's mainly been a 9. That's a shame. He's gone 33, 16, 18, 9, 9, 9, 10, 9, 19, 69, 19, 9, 69. I like it. Good one, righteous one. I appreciate that. It's good stuff. Farker's by far the most important person this season. Play low block and counter, we could be okay if we try and press, or play with high line with people like Biol will be murdered. We said that when we first came up under Bielsa. I think immediately assuming that what you had in the Championship won't work in the Premier League is a risk. We'll find out. He does play with 22 for Georgia. He spent a couple of seasons at 9, which is a bit weird. Yeah, in 2021 he was 9, in 23-24 he was 9. But it varies a bit. Nonto looks good and a bit more serious looking this pre-season. I hope this season he has the ability. I'd look forward to playing Nonto a bit more. He'd be a pretty damn important addition to the side and would make sure that things actually get done. Heard he costs less than Muniz. I don't know, because that kind of depends on Leon's situation at the moment. Because we know that Leon are struggling financially, but I don't know how bad that is. Let's have a look at the news. Tools, recent. Let's go for past 24 hours. Have we had anything? Right, nothing transferring in the past 24 hours. How about the past week? There's something from French Football Weekly. After the departures of Lacazette, Benrahma, Cherki and Lucas Perry, they could lose another player in the coming hours. It'd be Duje Shaletakar, according to the information of Fabrizio Romano. They could also lose Mikotadze. However, right, okay. The specific wording of it is quite interesting on Mikotadze. I wouldn't mind signing Mikotadze, to be completely clear. I think he's a very, very good player and would add a lot to the squad. But this adds a little bit of complication from our perspective. So, while the coach of Lyon, Paulo Fonseca, has declared before that the preparation of the Jordan striker is intransferable, an English club is positioning themselves to sign him. Specifically, it was referring to Wolverhampton, who would be interested in the services of him in order to strengthen their attack. Although he's been deemed essential by the Lyon management after the departure of Lacazette, it would be difficult to imagine it could refuse a transfer if a considerable offer came to arrive on their desk. Which is interesting. I'd absolutely take him every day of the week. But tricky. Lacazette, get him. Not for me. Plus, he's already gone to a different club. He's gone to Nyon, who I keep hearing about, but I don't know why. So I'm going to have a little bit more of a look into them. Also, he's 34 years old. Who is looking at Lacazette right now and going, you need to be playing in the Premier League? Nah, there's options. You can be established, but old. And I think there's a point where you start losing your legs. Armand Loriente as an Igor Paisha replacement. I've seen a little bit about Loriente. An interesting one. Like, a lot of people will, and this is warning you guys in advance. A lot of people will say about any of the given winger targets, but they're not as good as Paisha. And that's fair, because the other winger targets that we're looking at will not be as good as Paisha. However, important thing to remember, there isn't going to be as good as Paisha. There's just not. We can be optimistic and we can say that any player that we look for will be able to do the job and all this kind of stuff. But realistically, of the players on the market, there was a reason that Paisha went for the money that he did, and there was a reason that the transfer saga was so embroiling. And that is because the guy is very clearly a ridiculous footballer. On Loriente, yes, he's not as good as Paisha because he's not going to be. The concern around him isn't the fact that he's not Paisha, it's that last season he was playing in Serie B. Season before that, I think he was also playing in Serie A, which is not too bad, but he didn't get the most impressive of numbers. They did get relegated, so obviously that's a bit of a risk. And he did a hell of a job in Serie B getting them back into the Premier League. Not Premier League, Serie A. There we go. But it's a concern. Jack, I think if you're saying that we're screwed now, you haven't been paying that great attention to the window. If you have a look at everything that has happened so far in this sort of period, we've signed a Udinese centre-back that AC Milan tried to get involved in and Newcastle tried to hijack the move, which is not a bad sign at all. We signed Bornau, who is an incredible threat from corners. Goodmanson, who's played Champions League football relatively recently. Longstaff, who got a hell of a lot of minutes for Newcastle, and whilst a lot of people are shouting the words Premier League proven, that's what he is. It's okay. And we've got Stack, who, for me, and I'm gonna absolutely bolt my flag to this mast, is a better player at the moment than Granit Xhaka. At least in his role. Because they're both, at points, considered defensive midfielders. And I think of the two, the better defensive midfielder is Anton Stack. Because all of the numbers say that. Without doubt. In fact, right, hold on. Let's pull that up over there. If I duplicate that and I go to Granit Xhaka. Right, where are we? There we go. Right, these are, if I can pull them up properly and be a little bit competent for once. Sorry, I know I'm not very good at that. Anton Stack's numbers, right? Which are pretty solid. He's average-ish when it comes to goal scoring stuff. His XG, pretty fucking solid. But everything else is hovering around the 50% sort of rate, which makes him the average defensive midfielder when it comes to attacking. He's not an attacker. That's not a problem for me. It's his defensive stuff that is really good. So, 57th percentile on tackles, which ain't half bad. Top 1% on clearances. Top 12% on aerials won. Very good on blocks. Very good on interceptions. The main difference is Xhaka passes lots, which is these bits. That was versus midfielders for the Stack one. I did specifically check that because it concerned me a little bit. But for me, in terms of who is going to impress more in midfield next season, and we can say that Stack's a 6 and Xhaka's an 8, but they keep signing players that are both 6 and 8 and can hover between the two. And I think what Sunderland are going to need more of next season are players that will be a 6. And in terms of the amount of time that he will be on the pitch for, Xhaka will end up playing significantly more as a 6. Because, or at least in terms of like practicality, he'll be doing a lot more of the defensive stuff. Because at the end of the day, Sunderland are not going to attack lots. Which is fine. But I think of the two players that, if you're asking the question who's going to impress more next season, I would take Stack over Xhaka at the same price point. I don't mind that. Don't care about Xhaka or Sunderland, talk about the Mooney situation. That's fine, but there's lots of situations to talk about. We're not screwed just because we're missing out on Mooney's. There's a hell of a lot of footballers. Danny Burke, who coached the Peacocks for the charity match and does actual coaching stuff all the time, specifically said something along the lines of, there's always going to be another player. Because there is. Because if you have a look at world football, there's an ungodly number of players, an ungodly number of teams, and a hell of a lot of leagues. And there's always going to be another centre forward. And there's time. That's the important thing, as mentioned by Dale. It's more than a month. Yeah, Rodrigo Muniz is not the last striker that will ever exist. So I don't think there's particularly a problem here. While some people might be on the spooked side, I'm comfy. I'm happy. I've had 108 votes in so far, by the way. If you've not voted on the poll in the chat, please do so. It's always nice getting your feedback. With 13% feeling at least some level of unsatisfied with the window so far, which still feels nuts. I think Piru and Nonto will shock us this year, and Metro will add to the party quite a lot. I think Piru's going to score a decent number. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think Friday is maybe a little bit soon for it, because things have been very quiet. But then again, a lot of the times things have been very quiet because we've ended up getting someone in. Which I'm not going to be too pissed about. Like, if something happens, brilliant. If something doesn't happen, I'm not going to be too mad. It'll all work out. It'll all be fine. Right, what was I doing? That was what I was doing. Cool. Joe, would you take any Barca players who are up for sale? Can you give us Raphina back? It's not even just for his level, it's because I miss him. Or Yamal. I'd take Lamine Yamal. Again, I'm not sure he's going to be on offer, but I think the Pie Show situation just destroyed my optimism. I think that is a psychology thing more than it's a football thing. Because whilst you can say the Pie Show thing destroyed your optimism, why are we not simultaneously looking at it and going, like, the Perry thing boosted my optimism, or the Stack thing, or the Longstaff thing? We've done a lot of good business. Yeah, let's do a swap deal, Yamal for Harrison. I think that sounds fair. I think. I hope. Hold on, I'm gonna press my do a chat message button, right? And once I press the chat message button, because I'm gonna prove it. I'm not gonna touch the keyboard. I'm just gonna touch, if I've got enough loose cable, the Stream Deck. Here we go. And then, if it works, either write something that is like, yay, or wow, Joe, you're so good at technology. Well done, or something like that. Let's boost the vibes. And that should send a message, I think. It did it! Yay! So yeah, like and subscribe. Cheers, lads. Because Pie Show's a different level. That's fair, but Pie Show being a different level means that arguably should not be so devastating. Because there's going to be players all over the shop that were like, oh, it'd be fantastic to have him on board. But it's not always going to happen. It's like, there'll be countless deals where in the background we've been asking the question and we've said, would you like to come to Leeds? And they'll have just gone, not particularly bothered. Which isn't the best spot to be in, but that's the reality of the situation. And that's going to have happened countless times. And the fact that this one has, like, snuck through to the public eye doesn't mean all of those other times didn't happen. It doesn't make this time more important than any of the others. Is the sort of spot that I'm in with it. Would you take Ben Doak? I can't remember if Ben Doak is particularly good. So I'll have a look at his numbers. We'll give you Ansu Fati on loan. Right, what's the list of players that Barca don't particularly want right now? Also, Ben Doak was not very impressive at Borough last season. So I'd say probably not. Where were we? I don't know. Striker and keeper was the main priority. We got the goalkeeper, now we need a striker. Maybe we could be in trouble. I think it's early to say that we could be in trouble. Like, we've reinforced basically everywhere. And there's been a very clear strategy of we'll start from the back and we will build forwards as we go. And us doing so means that we have that solid foundation in defence now. We've got a very, very decent midfield that I think will control a good few matches. Like, I saw a clip on Twitter earlier that focused around the way that Leeds United were controlling the match against Scum. And the way that we were using possession and moving the ball around to drag their players out of position and ultimately get the likes of Jaden Bogle in behind. And if we're able to do that against a side that, let's be honest here, whilst we all want them relegated, it's not going to happen, is it? We all want them relegated, but they won't be. They're probably going to be fighting for Europe. We're putting up a decent performance against them. That's not a bad place to be. Hi, Joe. I don't necessarily think that Xhaka has been brought in to impress as such. Like Stack, we need a cool-headed midfielder who can influence younger players. Xhaka is captain reportedly. Good luck for the season. And good luck to you too. There is one little concern that I had around that, where I've never particularly been a fan of when a club signs a new player and is like, by the way, you're the captain now. Because A, it feels a little bit pirate murdering Tom Hanks. Look at me, I am the captain now. That kind of vibe. But it feels like then they don't have a place in the squad yet, and to immediately say that, look, this is the pyramid of players that have been here for an extended period of time. Luke O'Nien, long-term club servant. By the way, you're now less of an influence on this squad than Granit Xhaka. Sorry about that, buddy. That's always felt weird to me. And I know that it's a relatively normal thing sometimes, but it's one of those that if I was managing a club, I wouldn't be super happy with doing. Like, I understand it, because he's very experienced. It makes me feel a bit icky. He's also got a hell of a lot of red cards in his career. He's up to 9, which is kind of impressive. There was a 3-season run. No, hold on. Okay, between 2015 and 2017, the 2-season run there, the guy managed to get 5 red cards. Which is very impressive. Like, fair enough to him. Well done. Harrison's been used for set pieces. That's very costly for a tiny impact on the team. I don't think Harrison is going to start games for us. I've got to be honest with you. He just won't. If you're having a look at our squad, I think Dan James starts out on the right. Willie Nonto starts out on the left. I wouldn't mind Piru behind Nmecha. Who do you think had a better season? Right, okay. So, this one... Oh, this is one of the most frustrating topics of conversation I've had for a while. Because I watch quite a lot of La Liga. Because over in Spain, La Liga is broadcast on DAZN, and we run a hell of a lot of events over there. Which meant that I worked a hell of a lot of Barcelona matches. And all season long, raphina was different. Raphina was special. And Lamine Yamal, fantastic player. He's got... I don't know... Right, how do I... I'm going to phrase it as he's got Xhaka vibes to him. Not in, like, his build, but in the idea that he would just take someone on and he would play football in the fun way. But that doesn't mean that he was doing better. I think in terms of, like, all the metrics and on the eye, raphina was the better footballer last year. I think the difference with Lamine Yamal is, A, he's got the PR advantage, because all of the Brazilian vote is going to go towards Vinicius Jr., because of course it is, because Real Madrid. And he's not as shiny, and also Lamine Yamal overperformed compared to his age. And I think that's what's impressed on a lot of people, rather than pure level. Which is a shame, because I really don't think Lamine Yamal was a better player than Raphina last season. He was a very good player. This isn't me, like, criticising Lamine Yamal at all. It's more a statement of, we shouldn't forget the ridiculously good players because they're on a team with a young and also very good player. You know? Does that make sense? Don't think we'll have Piru behind Nmecha because with our recruitment it's looking like a 4-3-3. That's a good point, yeah. I don't know. I think we'll only really know how we're going to line up in the friendly against AC Milan. That'll be the big hint. I think we'll get an idea against Villarreal. But at the same time, against Scum, Tanaka was sort of playing in the 10. So it's confusing. I don't know. I've not seen much about Sotil. I'll have to look into him and maybe do something on him in the morning. But I don't see Taremi coming. That one feels unlikely to me. I'm very excited for the next few games, yeah. I'm going to be there on Saturday. I'm probably going to do a matchday vlog, actually. In fact, I'm going to... What the fuck was that? Put my foot down and I felt something weird. Okay. Yeah, I'll do a very, very quick poll. Also, I've got some very, very fun ideas for a video that's coming up that I'm not going to leak right now. But if Darren is still here, If he is, say hello. He can confirm that it is a very fun idea. It's something very different. And I think would be spectacular if people were down for it. I don't know. Window so far has been very good for us. We've got plenty of time to bring in a striker and maybe another winger. We are lucky. We've already got a good attacking line of options. We'll be fine. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Like, our options for going forward are already very, very, very strong. Maybe they're not all, like, starting in the Premier League level, but then again, you're not needing to start all of them. A lot of it is just bench option. And last time he was in the Premier League, there was one thing that was really missing from Dan James's game. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. There was one thing missing from Dan James's game, and that was his like end product and his final ball and his like technical level. And that technical level has just gone up through the roof in recent years. So I'm looking forward to that. You're going to give us a tease on your idea? I will at some point. But I want to make sure that I can do the idea before I start teasing it, because I don't want to disappoint people, because that would feel rubbish. But it's a fun one. It's something very different that hasn't really happened on Leedsy YouTube prior, which is exciting, you know? All we can do is judge the business at the end of the window, then judge the players at the end of the season. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, to be honest with you. In terms of judging the window, just wait until it's done. Or at least like until the season has started, or until there's like a single week left. Because judging now is pointless. There's a month left. There's no need to go, oh, it's time to poo ourselves, everything is going wrong. Because it's not, it's fine. Farke gets sacked if he has a bad run when we take Xavi. I genuinely don't know. Probably not, because I think Xavi isn't going to be super familiar with the context of lower end Premier League, and I think that is a very different challenge to the one he faced at Barcelona. Also, yeah, smash a like and subscribe. That'd be appreciated. Thank you, guys. I'm very, very close to 100 likes on this stream, and I'm going to do the whole candid thing again, because I like being honest with you guys. There's no point sort of like hiding stuff. The better streams like this do now, the better chance I'll have going forwards doing YouTube stuff, because the transfer window is where you're able to actually like do things, whilst when it's not transfer window time, it turns into a little bit of like panic time mode, because I'll be honest, a lot of the views go away, and that's depressing, but that's fine. Hi all, what are we talking about? We are talking about about everything at the moment. But we initially started talking about Rodrigo Muniz being the subject of £40 million interest from Newcastle, which could, in theory, drag us into another bidding war, but I don't think we'll end up having to do it. Evie is in the house. I'm so fucking chilled out about this window. I'm horizontal. I have faith in the 49ers. Very, very, very good to see. But aren't you also horizontal because surgery? So, I mean, you win some and you lose some. It's good to be chilled out enough to just be able to, like, to be able to go into relaxed chair mode. You need one of these chairs. I think we had a conversation about these chairs before, and you were like, oh man, my chair doesn't have nap mode. Mine does. It's great. Oh god, everyone's just saying hello to each other. She's horizontal because she's 1 inch tall. That's not how horizontal works. Is it? No. I don't know. Yeah, I'm swollen and solid as hell today. Struggling to walk. Oh, that's not great. Well, I wish you the best of recoveries. I assume this means that you are not going to be at the friendly at the weekend. Which, I mean, fair enough. I mean, if you are, I'm good to say hello, but I'm assuming that you're a little bit busy recovering from the plague. Evie toast a pod while lying down. I've had such a good idea. Evie, are you up for a stream idea where, like, we're both in office chairs that are just in this mode, and we call it, like, Oh, there's a pun somewhere. Like Lucas Nmecha, and it's just like, hold on. I'll adjust it a little bit again. And we end up talking like this, and it turns into like an ASMR stream. And I put, hold on, actually that's a good idea as well. 1 second. Oh, this is such a good stream idea. I love when I've got like fun stream ideas because it's like, oh, let's go for it. And we do a little bit of rain sound as well in the background. And yeah, welcome to That'll Do It, Laid Back Leeds, where we try and get people to sort of relax and chill and get into a zen space with Leeds United. It doesn't have to be stressful, and it can always be a little bit more calm and soothing. I'm going to stop that before Pierre goes for a piss. I actually love that idea. Let's get it done! Let's go for it. That's fantastic. Let me know when. I'm completely down for that. That's such a fun idea. I don't know how I would do it. No, I do know how I would do it. Okay, I'm down for laid back Leeds. Yeah, it sounds like a 2 AM DJ. There we go. There's a little bit of me also that is like, does that, in theory, work as a deadline day stream? I am not. No, Scally. We're leaving that there. I am not being referred to as the Love Doctor. I might be out of the idea. My chair doesn't go that far back. It doesn't need to go all the way back. It just goes like a little bit of the way back. Like even if you can go to like here, then you're still laid back. You know, you're still a little bit chill. You must have some Leeds United bedding, Joe. Host it from bed. No, because I tend to stream on an evening. And I have a pregnant wife. So I think the bed would be in use, and I think I would be killed if I tried to swap the bedding out. Also, I'm going to do I might do a YouTube short about this. This isn't a football-based YouTube short. This is a story time YouTube short about what not to do when how do I phrase this well? Okay, so, as a joke, I'm going to be completely clear. Kayla called me a fucking idiot, which I was like, fair enough, I was being a fucking idiot. I decided that I would get a little bit of revenge. So as we all know, pregnant wife, currently 21 weeks. So we've got some kicks from time to time, and like she's on a bit of a schedule in there. She's like, there's times when she'll be awake, there's times when she'll be asleep. Let's do a deadline day special. Yes, okay, let's get that booked in. Wonderful. But there's times she'll be asleep, there's times she'll be awake. You might be Team Kayla now. You will be more Team Kayla afterwards, but you'll be absolutely wetting yourselves with how funny this idea was. But she called me an idiot, and I was like, cool. This is war. So, I was like, raise your hands, please. So she was like, okay, this is a bit weird, and just went like this. So I walked up to her. I went up to her belly, and you know when you do a gentle little, like, on your own belly when you're like, I'm hungry, or something like that. What I did was on her belly, I was like, wake up, it's time for kickboxing, because about 5 minutes beforehand, Kayla was like, oh, she's not been kicking today, lovely. So in response, I was like, oh, let's wake up the child. How did I phrase it? Let's have a look at how I phrased it. Because I had to explain this to people when we were having a little bit of a discussion on whether or not what I did was ethical. Where are we? There we go. Fellas, if you ever get called a fucking idiot by a pregnant wife, I have the perfect solution. Simply activate your terrorist sleeper cell by shouting, "Morning, wakey wakey, time for kickboxing," whilst tapping her on the stomach. The Trojan horse activates and your enemy is defeated from within. It was evil, but it was genuinely very funny. Does she have any strange food cravings? Mine was pickles. I don't believe so. Not that I know of. Don't mess with a pregnant woman. I don't tend to, but this was in a fun way, so it's fine. Talk more Leeds. This is garbage waffling about. Oh yeah, I mean, come on, we're 50 minutes in. That's how these work. These work by right. This is the right. This is the behind the scenes stuff. Okay. I'm surprised you're still alive. You stirred a baby awake while you're fucking in it. I'm 100% Team Kayla now from till the end of time. But it was fun. And to be fair, she laughed, so it was okay. Summary of the day football-wise, Leeds are not as big as Newcastle United in 2025. We're not as in European competitions or financially owned by a country. We're all family, which is why we talk everything. Yeah, absolutely. This is just a general like the deadline day stream between me and Evie, if it happens, is almost all gonna be this. It's just gonna be a chat, a nice, relaxed chat, which I like. I prefer it that way. Due date's this Monday. Ooh, good luck. Enjoy. Enjoy? I don't know. Don't know how and I don't know when, but you're going to pay for that one day. Oh, absolutely. But it was so funny. It's okay, she can get him back on night feeds. Joe will be up all night. Right, okay, so I learned earlier that we, at work, might end up picking up some of the cricket matches during the Ashes. Which is good, because that is on like a 10-hour shift, which is nice. Plus throw a quiz my direction. Oh. I'm going to do more quizzes. Actually, right, in fact, sod it. Evie, that fun video idea that I've had isn't something that you necessarily will be able to do right now, but I would like an idea on what your thoughts are, so I'm going to ping it over to you. And just let me know what you think. I think we'll all need a chill pill on deadline day. Absolutely we will. But I'm going to end the stream in a couple of minutes anyway. But just ping me a message in response that is like, that's a good idea, that's a stupid idea, whatever you're thinking on it. Because I think there's a lot of fun to be done with that. But we'll see. Anyway, right. I'm going to end the stream in a moment's time. Because the Mentos are looking at me again. And whilst the last one tried to kill me, maybe this one won't. I'm in a toxic relationship with Spearmint Trebors. I've got to be honest with you. So we'll deal with it. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed the stream. If you did, pop a like on it. That's always massively appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't yet. That is also fan-dabby-dozy of you. Even become a channel member. It's $2.99 for a month. You get a bunch of videos and stuff early. It's a nice time. Hope you all enjoyed. And I will see you all later. Toodaloo. Also, yay, over 100 likes. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you. See you in the morning. Bye. Also, Aronson, because he's less of a rat.